Welcome to my messy life. Take my hand and dive right on in with me. It's gonna be alright. Messy imperfect life with Leigh.
Hi friends, welcome to Messy Imperfect Life with Leigh. Today I am so freaking happy because I have one of my dearest friends sitting here in my guest house, Jacqui Pitman. Welcome, Jacqui.
Hey, Leigh.
Hi, I'm so happy you're here.
I'm so glad to be here.
It's one of those things that I see you. Now, Jacqui has warned me that she's having a little bit of a sinus issue.
True that.
And what I think it really is she's so excited to be here that she's almost about to cry already. Because we like to cry a lot when we get together.
Don't get me started.
Not yet. I can't imagine if we do cry, what kind of that's going to do with your sinuses today.
That's a very bad thing.
I look forward to it and glad it's on camera. So Jacqui, you know, the first of all, I was going to get right into the messiness of life, but I don't want to yet. I want to just talk about how long we've known each other and how we met.
Oh, God. We probably have known each other for at least 30-something years, right? About 30.
Oh, my gosh.
We met on a TV show called Studs for Fox. Yeah. You and your crazy sister came in to be on the show, and I was head of casting.
Yes, Jacqui was head of casting, and I went on the Studs show. I went on twice. The first time I went on, I don't even remember what happened or what happened. But they asked me to come back on and be the first studette, where the girl was the stud and went out with 3 guys. And I was like, hell yeah. And I remember a guy named Mike Ewell, who was a darling fireman from down south. I think he kind of looked like, Matt Dillon.
Yeah, he was super cute.
He was so cute.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so Howard Schultz, who has since passed away and is Jacqui's angel now, as opposed to her mentor and father figure
absolutely.
And one of the loves of her life. Howard asked me, he said, "You are really funny." And I said, "I am really funny." And he said, "Would you come back and write on our show?" Now, I had just moved here from Kansas, from teaching scuba diving for Club Med. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know what the hell he was talking about, but I was up for anything. So I said, hell yeah, I'll write on your show. Never written on anything in my life. And I went on the show and I wrote a script and he read it and said, "This is the worst piece of shit I've ever seen in my entire life." And I said, well, that makes sense because I don't know what the hell I'm doing. And then he said, "I want you to work here though. Go work in casting with Jacqui." And sometimes I make things up in my head, but tell me if this sounds right. I walk into the room and you look at me like, "What in the hell are you doing here?"
True
and
that.
I said, "That's true, right?"
That's pretty true.
And you're like, "What are you doing here?" And I was like, "I'm working with you." And you were like, "Oh, hell no, you're not." Or something like, "What in the hell are you talking about?" And I was like, "Sorry, that Howard guy just sent me in here."
Well, it's pretty random to have a contestant, someone who's on a show, to actually all of a sudden become a part of the staff. So it was a first for us, anyway.
It was a first for me as well.
It was a first. But from there, we became fast friends. And next thing I know, we're hanging out and partying and having a good time and enjoying each other's company as friends. And yeah, and that kind of set off our future of 30 years of friendship.
And when I met Jacqui, like I said, she kind of looked at me like, "Who the hell are you?" Like most people do when I walk into a room.
Pretty much.
Because something's a little wrong with me. But Jacqui looked at me like that, and I saw her look, and I was like, "Oh, I see right through you, Jacqui." I mean, I just remember going, "You think you don't like me, but you're going to like me." And we connected. But you know what? And sometimes I like to just hear nice things about myself, but something, and I'm going to do it back to you in a minute, but something you said I really loved. You said, because Jacqui and I hung out a lot and partied a lot and made out a lot.
That never happened.
Yeah, that's right. With me either.
Exactly.
But I remember we ended up moving in together.
We did.
We became roommates, and Jacqui said something about wanting to have fun. What was that?
Well, it was pretty funny because I had my own apartment, really big one, actually, and it was probably just after the Northridge earthquake. And I lived on my own, and I was having a good time, and I worked a lot, and I saw Leigh on weekends and had a great time, and all of a sudden, your sister moved out of your apartment.
Yeah.
And you were like, I've got to move. I want to get a place and we should be roommates. And I was like, ooh, roommates. Because I hadn't had a roommate in a really long time. And at that point I was like, maybe I will. I'll move in with Leigh. We'll rent a house in West Hollywood because I wanted to have fun. I just wanted to have fun. I just wanted to have mindless fun. That's what
we did.
we pretty much had mindless fun for almost 3 years.
We had mindless fun. And I love that too. You made the decision by, I want to have fun.
That was it.
And that's something that comes natural to me, just how I'm wired, that I can't help but have fun no matter what the situation is.
Right.
And we had so much damn fun. And I remember a couple things pop out of my head. And this one is like so horrific for you.
There were a lot that were horrific for me, but
well,
wait, was it the one where we were, I first found out after 3 years you were Republican and I was a Democrat?
Yeah, but you know what's so funny about that business? I was raised Republican. And you know, people back in the day too, you want to get mad at me and I'm like, I don't even know what's going on with politics. I just got labeled that growing up and I haven't learned much about how to switch or what I'm doing. But since then, I would describe myself as not connected to either party. I literally do everything now with my heart. And whoever's speaking something of compassion and love and taking care of each other and spreading love, because I think that's the most powerful weapon we have on the planet, then I'm for them. And I no longer do any sort of affiliation or get caught up in that sinkhole because it's gotten too divisive. It's too ugly.
Well, I think what's fascinating about the fact that we were friends for 3 years and politics or our views of it never filtered into our lives or our friendship. So it never dawned on me that you had opposing views to certain things that I had because we just got along so well.
Yeah.
It just didn't really matter. And
that's an interesting point, Jacqui. The people, if you take out religion, if you take out your beliefs, this is how it is, right? And you open to, for me, this is how I feel. For you, that's how you feel. And I love you. Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, I also think if in the core of religion and politics and various things, there's a natural human connection that we're all trying to get to. And yes, we have opinions about it. And yes, we have opinions about how to do it. But if you take away those opinions on how to do it and how to be, and you just be, you're probably fine.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's, if you treat people a particular way as opposed to tell people how to treat people.
Yeah.
You're probably fine.
That reminds me of the Rumi quote, something about out beyond wrong and right, there's a field. Meet me there.
Yeah.
And I remember once I posted on Facebook, I said, hey, you believe differently than me? Let's grab a cup of coffee. I'd love to hear all about it. And I got so many responses from really cool people on that one. Mm-hmm. And I thought, that is it. We're so triggered to fight about shit. We're so set up to put in our heels and fight as opposed to opening our hearts and listening. And I think that's where the world can be transformed as well as ourselves.
Yeah. And I've always lived by, instead of trying to tell someone, you should do what I do, just do what I do and pray that they notice, like it, enjoy it, and decide to just jump on like the Pied Piper.
Yeah. I was reading through the questions you answered. I found them so interesting. I sent a little sheet before with just a couple questions. And one thing that you talked about, and you just said it, just live your life, do what you do, and hope that they see, set by example. And then in something you filled out, you were talking about your parents and what an impact how they lived impacted you today in so much of your life. Mm-hmm. And before I ask you to share about that, I'm going to another quote, one of my favorite quotes of all time by Carl Jung, I think is his name, or Jung. I don't know how the hell to pronounce it.
Jung.
Carl Jung. He has a quote that says, the greatest disservice in a child's life is the unlived life of his parent. And so and I remember too with my kids, as I'm running around partying, having fun with my girlfriends, starting podcasts, writing stuff, telling them that they have to go wait till I'm done writing and then I'll be with them. And they're like, you're never showing up for me. I'm like, nah, don't start that story. I'm living my life. Mm-hmm. And in doing so, I'm showing you how to live yours. And then when you don't, because we both had parents who weren't fully realized, and it affected both of us deeply.
Absolutely. That's a very powerful quote. I've never heard it, but it's definitely one I'll repeat.
Yeah. So tell me one thing that that I just have such a soft spot in my heart for you. And, I'm really into loving our younger selves, and that inside of us is our younger self who didn't have our needs met.
Right.
And there's something about when I look at you that I see that little girl that I wish I could, and I might do it too as an adult.
I'm scared.
I might do this to you as an adult, but you just allow it and know that I'm holding your little girl. I want to hold your younger self. I want to hold that little girl who was in foster care, who had to navigate, I had to navigate. I wasn't enough for my own mother to get out of bed for. I thought I was unworthy. But somehow she was there, even though I didn't have her. But to be in foster care, or to bounce in foster care if you go to different houses, I can't even imagine feeling that you don't even have the foundation. Tell me about it. I don't know.
Okay. Well, we'll jump into this early.
Welcome to the messy imperfect life.
Yeah. You know what? Foster care, I kind of compartmentalize it in my life now because, you sit and you're like, wow, this happened to me. Okay. Between the ages of 7 and 18. And then from 18 to 25, wow, this happened to me. And then from 25 to 35, wow, this happened to me. And then from 45 to 55, wow, this happened to me. And now I'm at 57.
Woo!
So it's like my life has taken turns and small bits and pieces, and you could separate it out and think it was completely someone else's life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That part, what you say, truly was my foundation. It was from 17 to 18. I lived in foster care. I lived
7 to 18, right?
7 to 18.
Now, can I ask, before you tell foster care, what happened between 0 to 7?
0 to 7. My mom was a single mom. She was married, divorced, and had an affair.
Okay.
After her, it wasn't her affair. It was my father's affair, because she was single, and she had me. She had 3 kids from her marriage, and then she had 2 kids from my dad. My brother and I were 11 years apart, so she had a 12-year affair with a married man who was married and had 6 kids.
Whoa.
And I fell in between there. Like, he had 3 boys, then me, then 3 girls, then my little brother.
Did the other family know about you?
Yeah, pretty much. And it was.
You weren't together or hanging out and doing Christmas.
Sometimes.
Oh, really?
Not with his family, no, but he straddled the line.
Okay. He wasn't mixing, saying to his current wife,
No.
this is my lover and my family.
No, he wasn't doing that, but he wasn't hiding it in public. So he would be out and about in town with me and my mom, and his wife see us. And that was a scene.
Wow.
And that was back in the day. It was very funny because it wasn't until I was in my 40s that I was able to really reconcile my relationship with my dad. And it was just before he died. He died of Alzheimer's. But it was, during that period of time, those are images that stay with me, So I'm living with all these different foster homes. And the interesting thing about that is you're dropping into other people's lives.
Yes.
And you're seeing how their lives are, and talk about messy and imperfect. All of them were. There wasn't one perfect home.
Oh, Jacqui.
So it was just like everybody, though they may have had the nuclear family where they had the mom and the dad in the house and maybe some kids.
They had the nuclear shit.
They had their nuclear shit. And that was fascinating to see also because, we sit and we judge so willingly people who weren't raised a particular way or have X amount of dollars or drive nice cars or where it's like, it doesn't matter what you have and how you got it and how you lived you're going to have shit.
Well, that's the whole reason that I'm doing this podcast, because the messiness we all have.
Right.
No matter what your picture on Facebook looks like, we all have the messiness. And I think that when we talk about it, not only does it make it not so messy, but it lets other people know you're not alone.
Right. So my mom ultimately became an alcoholic. She had 3 kids, then me. And during that period of time, her husband didn't like her lifestyle.
So she was married while she was making out with your dad?
No, she's divorced.
Okay, I got it.
But her ex-husband, who was the father of the 3 kids, didn't like her lifestyle when she had me. So he ultimately took custody. And back in the 60s, my mom was working like 2 jobs, single mom, 4 kids, trying to make it happen.
Damn.
Is not easy. And in the public's view, because everybody's opinionated back then and now, but even more so then, husbands who wanted their children who had jobs were just definitely more qualified to be parents than a single mom with 4 kids.
Wow.
So he got custody of the 3, and that left me. And that left me with a broken woman who lost like 3 of her kids, who became an alcoholic during that period of time.
Oh,
so she became an unfit mom. If she wasn't one prior, she became one.
Really unfit, right.
Because of the alcoholism. But she also, little did we know, was borderline schizophrenic at the time.
Oh.
So you add alcohol with schizophrenia.
Bless her heart.
And that was a volatile cocktail.
Bless her heart that she had to struggle that way, but bless your heart that you had to navigate that.
Yeah. So, I was removed from the home at 7, lived a couple different houses, then went back I lived with my aunt, who was my mother's sister, to be closer to my mother because she was pregnant with my little brother.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, because he was 11 years younger than me. And
so how did you go from foster home to your
aunt?
Yeah.
I just called her.
And she said, you can come. So if there's a relative, even if you're in foster care, if a relative wants you can go.
Yeah.
All right.
I called her and they investigate the situation. But I said, can I come live with you to be closer to mom? And she's like, yeah. So at that point, I was like 11. Aunt. Yeah. And I went and lived with her for 2 years, but it didn't last very long because they were giving me slowly back to my mother because I was so close to home. And ultimately, I think the system really wants you to be with your natural family. They don't want to take you away.
Yeah.
So, but it wasn't a good situation because my mom was not well.
Yeah.
And I wasn't forthcoming. Kids, if you've ever seen abused children, they don't tell you they're abused. So they hide it. And so I wasn't forthcoming. But ultimately, when I was 12 years old, I just finally ran away. I called the services to come get me.
Oh, when you were 12.
Yeah.
Because you were like, I've had enough of
I'm
this.
Done.
I'm worn out.
Yeah, I was done.
Yeah.
I was just done. So
you went back into foster care.
I went back by choice.
Did you get a good family with the crazy shit?
I had 3. I got...
Were they black families or white
families? They're all
families?
black families.
They're all
black. No, I had a great foster family. I think, honestly, to be perfectly honest, it really didn't matter who the family was.
Just getting out.
I was just going to settle in, and wait it out till I was 18. So I had a great family for that purpose.
Yeah.
They had their own issues, needless to say, but it was fine for me. I excelled in school. I was in everything from basketball to softball to all the plays to marching band to pom-poms to chess club.
I'm sorry, did you say marching band?
Yes, I was in marching band.
Gosh, dang it, I wish I could have seen that.
I played 4 instruments.
Dang, Jacqui.
I was an overachiever. I really was.
Yeah, it's kind of like when you're young or with anything in life, when you get to that fork in the road, you can say, I'm a victim of the system. Nobody cares about me. I suck. I'm going to go downhill into who knows what life. Or I'm going to make different choices and run like hell with it.
Yeah. And I think part of it for me too was I wanted to stay out of the home. So I was really, really busy. I just made myself consciously 12-hour days full. When I finally graduated, I moved to California.
Because it knows how to party.
Because my mother and my little brother were sent out to California to live with my sister. And I wanted to get to know my family.
How many years ago did your little brother die?
He died in 1987.
So that was before I met you.
Mm-hmm.
Just before. I'm so pissed I didn't get to meet him.
Mm-hmm.
I got to meet your mom.
Yeah.
And I didn't meet your dad, did I? Because he was East Coast?
He was East Coast. My dad died in 2007. Yeah.
So I knew you then.
Mm-hmm.
Can't believe you didn't let me go fly home with you to go look and meet with your dad. And
he was crazy as all hell.
Was he crazy? I know he was crazy with 17 kids.
He didn't have 17, but there are some people I know who do. Yeah. So, I mean,
who are you most like, your dad or mom? Just genetically?
Ooh, that's a good question. And it's one that I actually answer quite frequently. I have my father's disposition. As far as funny and fun and playful and, always laughing and smiling. That's my dad.
Yeah.
He's that guy. I have my mother's heart. My mother was very generous. She was generous to a fault. So she was very, very generous. Luckily, I don't have either of their alcoholic gene because they were both alcoholics.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Double whammy. That's good. You skipped out on that.
I missed it.
So, because in families, some kids get it.
I do. I know.
got a sprinkle of it, but I got it under control a little bit.
No, it's a big deal because, there are other people in my family who I see have the gene and I don't have the gene.
I'll have to tell you, watching someone kill themselves or self-destruct with alcohol is one of the most painful. And I'm saying alcohol because I've seen that, but drugs or whatever it is, because as a lover or as a family member or as a child or whatever you are to it, there's not a damn thing you can do.
No. Mm-mm.
I mean, the best thing you can do is detach with love and take care of yourself. And that is opposite of how we're wired.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it is one of the most taxing, crazy ass diseases, right?
It is.
That's to hear it compared to cancer. I get it once you experience it. Cancer, you can go to treatment and get better. With alcoholism, you can go to treatment and get better. And there's a chance it can come back, and it's just making new lifestyle choices. So it's been, yeah, it's interesting. My mom was an alcoholic. But I don't remember so much about it, right? Because I was too busy running and trying to get my voice heard and get places and didn't have time. But learning more about it, it's pretty a blessing that you didn't catch that bug. And that I have awareness of it.
Yeah. I mean, alcohol is interesting because it takes you out of the pain you're in for some people. But little do you know, it actually digs you deeper in it.
Yeah.
So it's like it can make you feel better and you forget a little of what's going on in your life
for a minute, and then you wake up and feel like shit, and
because
it's still there
because you've added to it.
Yeah.
And I think it's a very interesting it's an interesting phenomenon.
In your paper that you filled out, you talked kind of about your love life being the messiest thing.
Train wreck.
But it was funny because when I read that, I was like, I don't know about train wreck. I think it's kind of fancy, free, and sexy and hot.
There's some of that.
Yeah. But I when I read the first thing was what's your messiness, I thought you're growing up and navigating foster care. And then when it was like, how have you used it to be of service? And you're like, shit, I don't know. I'm still dating. I was like, that made me laugh. But then I thought, because my first thought was kind of going through the foster care. And what I love is when we get the mess and we learn from it, and then we use that to do good in the world. Mm-hmm. And with my thinking about how you were going to fill that out, the foster care and coming through the kind of messiness of life just to get where you are today, what you've been through. Mm-hmm. And now what you're doing with it and how you're reaching out and helping foster kids touches my heart, especially is it at Christmas?
Yeah.
When you gather.
It's very minor what I do. It's so funny.
Nothing's minor.
I know. But people are love it. And I love it too. I think mentally for me, having been a foster kid, I know there are so many other things I could do to help them, to benefit from, and I think I will eventually. It's a slow process for me.
I want to say something really quick to the people who are watching or listening. Jacqui gives her heart and her time and her soul to foster kids. And right now what she's doing is kind of judging the amount that she's giving and doing with her heart and soul. But I want to free Jacqui up, and I want to free out everyone who's listening that when you do one little baby act of kindness, it changes not your heart, the other person's heart, but it actually changes the energy frequency in the whole world because we're all connected.
Yeah.
So never, ever say, I only do this, because that is exactly all you are supposed to be doing right now. And it's beautiful.
And I appreciate that. And it's probably true. It's probably
well,
true.
if I'm saying it, it's not probably true. It's true.
But just for your listeners, I collect gift cards every Christmas. I forego a birthday and a Christmas present, though some people still give me stuff.
If I ever remember.
If you ever remember not to. For Thanksgiving, which is my birthday, and Christmas, I always tell people in lieu of birthday cards and Christmas and money and all that other gifts, give me a $20 to $25 gift card for a foster kid. I said, just give me one gift card. Well, of course, my friends who don't, it's like eating one chip, can't do it. So many of them give me $200 in gift cards or $300 or $500 in gift cards, or, and it really doesn't matter the amount. I'm equally as grateful if it's one $20 Target gift card or $120 gift cards.
I think I always follow what the exact instructions are. I'm like, $20 gift card, click, click. So yeah, I never thought I could give more. There I am judging my giving.
Yeah, it's pretty funny because this last, what you said really hits hard for what just happened in this last go round. Basically, every year I always post on Facebook or something about the gift cards, and sometimes I do it begrudgingly because I hate going to my friends for money, but I also realize that if I don't ask, the kids won't receive. So I do it anyway. And many times I have my friends reach out to me before I post, and they say, hey, are you collecting gift cards this year?
Yeah, it's like Girl Scout cookies.
Yeah.
When people reach out to me, are you selling Girl Scout cookies to you? They're like, can I give?
Yeah, it's like, I got the gift cards already. Can I just send them to you? I know you haven't posted. So that's kind of funny. But this year, I had a development partner. I sold a show to ABC Studios, and I have it.
Can you talk about that or no?
Yeah, I can, but not really, not yet.
Okay. So Jacqui, okay, I know. Okay, finish the story.
I'm a TV producer, and I own a casting company and all that stuff.
We'll talk about that. Go on with the foster. Okay.
But so one of my producing partners, development execs at ABC, whom I didn't know very well, probably met a couple times, approached me, and she said, hey, I read your post and I want to contribute. And I'm like, okay, and it took us a couple weeks to connect on the contribution. And, I was appreciative of whatever it was. And I was on my way to Africa. It was like a day before leaving to go to Africa.
Amazing.
And I was trying to deliver my gift card. So I was in mad hurry, mad rush. And my development exec, she says, shout out to Seppi. She says,
hey, Seppi.
Hey, Seppi. She says, where are you? I want to deliver the gift cards to you. And that particular day, I wasn't working at the office. And I was like, well, where are you? And we tried to coordinate a couple of times. I was like, just drop them through the slot, at my office. If I'm not there, I'll pick them up. Because I'm thinking she's going to give me like one or two.
Like me, $20.
And then finally I get to the office. She hadn't come yet. And she calls me. She's like, I'm walking over to the parking lot of where you work. She's like, can you meet me? And I'm like, okay. So, and I'm manic because I'm trying to deliver everything.
Yeah, you're like, just put the shit through the slot like I told you.
Pack my bags to get out for Africa for 3 weeks. And I walk to the parking lot, and literally she's standing there with a big plastic bag of 100 $20 gift cards from Target.
What?
And instantly I just started bawling. I can't cry right now because I'm trying to keep my sinuses in check. But I just started bawling.
Oh.
It was $2,000
Oh.
of
And you knew
gift
what
cards.
that was going to do.
And, and she said to me, I want you to reach a goal of like $10,000 this year. How close are you? I'll double it. I'm like, Seppi, no, thank you. I appreciate it, but it was amazing. And what I did with those, I contribute to a couple different organizations. One I help is the Division of Family Services here in Los Angeles. My girlfriend, Dawn Dolan, is like the conduit to that. She's like the liaison, and she's so emotional about Christmas, and she's the one who actually asked me one year to help her.
Oh.
And I was like, sure, let me post, I'll get it. And then all of a sudden we get thousands of dollars in gift cards, and I'm like, whoa, hey. So it's been going on for several years now. And then the other person I help is he's the director of a company called Children's Rights Alliance. And it's a law firm that actually gives free legal services to foster kids aging out of the system.
Wow.
So, I contribute to him.
I love that.
And then I have another girlfriend who opened a store in Los Angeles called the Emporium. And it's a store where foster kids aging out of the system go to shop for free.
Oh.
So they get anything from housewares for their new apartments.
Oh, I love that.
To clothes, to prom dresses, because it's their
like
senior
you're not
year.
Forgotten when you're out of the system.
Yeah.
There are people waiting to help you.
And, it's kids aging out of the system are extremely, and it's a weird period of time. People don't understand. I remember when I was a senior in high school in humanities class, and I would literally sit and cry nearly every day because I was turning 18.
Oh, shit.
And I wasn't sure what was going to happen to me. I knew I applied to college, but who was going to pay for it? And, it's a scary time.
I couldn't imagine.
And a lot of kids, unfortunately, in our community, now, when I was a foster kid, they didn't have the gap. They didn't have the services between 18 and college graduation to help kids. You were 18 and you're out. And a lot of them became children of the night.
Well, hell yes, because at 18, even if you're in like a home that seems somewhat stable, that we all know we all got our shit, you're going to have support to the next step.
Yeah.
And you're sitting there going, oh, I've been bounced around and now I'm bounced out? Right. What now? I don't have a place to go.
But to my foster family is still my family. Aww. At 57 years old. I go home, whenever I go home, Christmas, Thanksgiving, my mom comes to visit. She's
Where's
my
home?
mom.
Where?
Jersey.
Okay.
So
you've never invited
I
me
was
over.
lucky. I was very lucky to have a foster family who actually looked at me as one of the kids.
Aww.
So I was never aged out of there.
Oh, yeah.
Financial support was a very difficult thing. She couldn't support me.
Yeah.
But I could to this day, if I ever fell flat on my face, could go home and have a bedroom to sleep in.
Yeah.
So that's always there for me. But a lot of kids don't have that. So the fact that I have a couple of friends who really, really work hard to help kids who age out is amazing. So I usually contribute to them.
I love it.
I did that this year. But I also, what I did was with those $2,000 gift cards. When I was a foster kid, my first friend lived on my street, 4 houses down from me, 6th grade. She became a social worker because I was a foster kid. When she grew up, she went to college, became a social worker. She has no kids of her own.
By that.
Yeah. She never wanted kids, but she wanted to be a social worker to help kids because
I never wanted kids either. What the hell happened?
You got 5.
What happened? Right.
And her best friend, because her best friend was a foster kid. So I actually sent those $2,000 in gift cards to her because she works at the Division of Youth and Family Services in Georgia.
Look how all of these little breadcrumbs from your whole life have come together so beautifully, and how you're using them, each section of the foster care arena.
So that's all I do for foster kids right now.
I love it, and that's all you need to do right now.
I don't have any of my own yet.
and I acknowledge you for doing that, and for all the lives that you've touched. It's beautiful. Now I want to talk about that time you dated Gary and fell in our family room. So I have to tell this.
Before we go to that,
Okay.
I just want to answer one of your questions.
Oh, what, babe?
You said how your parents influenced
Yeah,
your love
yeah.
life or your
Gosh,
life.
we have to put Gary on hold to talk about like your heart.
It gets to that.
Okay, baby, I love you.
But I spent my entire life. I didn't get married till I was 46 years old. That's a long time.
Yeah.
And I had a few relationships that were full and rich and but never ended up in marriage.
Yeah.
But I spent my entire life, I felt like, not being my mother.
Yeah.
And not marrying my dad. Because my dad was a philanderer.
Yeah.
Infidelity was huge, obviously.
And not your mom, because you didn't want to be an alcoholic, schizophrenic.
I didn't control that.
No, but
I didn't. What my mom, as I said earlier, my mother is one of the most generous people I know. She was like, her heart was like,
I
open
saw that
for
when
all.
I saw her.
The thing about her also was she spent her entire life in love with two men she shouldn't have been in love with.
I have to say something about that.
What?
Because you know what? There's a girl named Byron Katie.
Let's put it this way.
But
in love
anytime
with two men who didn't love her back. And that's what I didn't want to be as a woman.
I see. Because I was going to say she should have been in love with those men. Why? Because she was. That was part of her story.
That's true.
And we put judgment on. But I think that the thing that you're saying is that kind of the energy level of how she felt about herself. She attracted men that she couldn't really fully have.
Yeah.
That were going to treat her poorly.
I mean, she was married to someone
who
who was abusive.
Yeah, see, yeah.
And then she left that relationship to be in a relationship with someone else who was married to someone who ultimately, he may not have abused her, but he was being abusive emotionally to his own wife.
So you knew, I never want to be in a situation to be treated that way.
Not at all.
Right, I get that.
So if that meant getting married at 46,
yeah,
it meant getting married at 46.
Right.
Yeah. And that marriage only lasts 3 years.
But although it lasted 3 years, are you glad you got to experience it?
Oh, I loved being married. Marriage was wonderful to me. You just have to be married to the right person.
Yeah.
And you have to be on the same page with that person.
Yeah, that's what I say. It was like the right person is the right person in that moment that you got married.
And the other thing is, I think, and I the same, I think many women, I'd say probably a lot of us, probably all of us, the first time we get married with an agenda. There's things that we want out of that marriage. We want to get married, we want to have kids, we want this, we want that.
Yeah, because we come in with so many thoughts about the wedding and having kids and doing this.
And we date with an agenda. And
I just dated to make out and suck. Don't make me say this.
Leigh, I know you really well. And I know before you met your husband, all you wanted to do was be a mom. And you are one now.
But I never dated with any of that in mind.
No.
I was running wild and partying my ass off. And I was making out in broom closets at bars and running out before they could get my number. So I was not.
Oh, I know.
But you know what? I knew one day that was going to come for me.
Underneath.
Yes, underneath all that shit that I had to do to find myself. Hopefully my kids don't have to work that hard to find themselves. I did know one day I would be married and have kids, but I remember when I hit 30 and I was still making out in broom closets, that the way I'm living is not it's not conducive to what I want.
No.
And that's kind of when I went to God and surrendered the running part.
I'm doing what you did at 30 now.
Yeah, right? I'm about to start back up. I missed it.
I'm like, it's not conducive to what I want, God. Yeah.
But it was, it was, I forgot.
It's funny. It was funny. Yeah, so that was just,
So you're glad you experienced it. That's what I found, like even the stuff that sucks the most and hurts the most.
Yeah.
And I can think of 5 things like on one hand that have crushed me, feeling like I was being crushed, have made my heart open in such ways.
Absolutely.
And made me stand up and reconstruct stronger and learn more about how freaking resilient I am and what big plans God has for me.
Right.
As opposed to going down the I'm a victim kind of shit, like going, that hurt. How can I use this now to be of service? And there was something that you wrote too that made me think about that too. I'm going to just peek at it.
I wrote that after a cocktail.
You did? did? You wrote it after a cocktail.
Yeah,
I love to have cocktails with Jacqui.
I'm going dry March 1st, so you
For
better
how
hurry
long?
up.
For how?
2 months.
Why? Why March 1st and why 2 months?
Because I'm focusing on fitness and
nice.
clean living for 2 months, and then I'm going to go hog wild when I go to New Orleans Jazz Fest and watch the Rolling Stones May 1st.
Now, I'll just tell you, when people go hog wild, that means I'm going to abandon everything I've done and go. So what you can do is incorporate 2 things. Walking outside.
I'll be at the Jazz Fest walking.
No. Starting today.
Oh, yeah.
Walk outside, especially with your big ass dog,
Yeah, true that.
and drink a ton of water.
Oh, yeah.
So those 2 things already, you're doing something fantastic. When you go to the Jazz Fest, you're just going to add in cocktails and eat some of the food you love, but you don't have to go hog wild.
Come on, Leigh.
No, that's what I've learned. It's like, I'm going to have my 2 freaking martinis and I'm going to have a
And
key lime
a big glass of water.
No, I don't do that. That's my problem. I forget about the water when I'm drinking, and next thing I know, I'm cross-eyed doing high kicks. What the hell?
I expect to be cross-eyed in New Orleans.
Then you do what you want to do in New Orleans.
Girl.
I should maybe try and go with you this year.
Yeah, I'm going.
Every year
Having a
we talk
good-ass
about me
time.
going, but I actually want to go.
Yeah, see?
Okay, so back to Gary. So Jacqui and I lived together. We were single. I was running wild and making out like there was no tomorrow. And Jackie's really cool. You know, you see her hair and she sachets and she goes slow and she looks men up and down, but she still was bringing home plenty of guys. I was bringing home some black guys. Jacqui was bringing home white guys. But every time I would bring home a black guy, Jacqui would be like, "What's up, my brother? What's up, my brother?" Like, how would you say it? Like, so like, you're with a fucking white woman. You are leaving our tribe. And then I was like, quit being a dick to him. You have white guys say, why is it okay for you to be with all these white guys? It made me laugh so hard. Every time I was like, you're going to get attitude from my roommate. They're like, why? And then I'd open the door. They're like, oh, it's a black woman. You'd be like, what's up, my brother? I was like, sorry, let's just run really fast to my
Stop
bedroom.
lying. I only did that when they were naked standing in front of me. I had to say, what's up, my brother?
Okay, I just have to say, I went through a little period.
Yes, you did.
Of 3 years where, if you guys have seen the movie 9.5 Weeks, it was similar to 9.5 Weeks. And if you've seen the movie 50 Shades of Grey or whatever the hell, it was way better than that. Like, I fell asleep during that movie. I was like, this does not even cut close to what I went through when I lived with Jacqui. But I met a guy, and I was kind of open.
So did I.
So did you. And he did a lot of things like ring the doorbell at 3 a.m, completely naked. And Jacqui would open the door and go, "What's up, my brother?" And then he would come in the bedroom, throw me over his shoulder, and take me in his car and drive away. And he was a big, strong man. Yeah, it was
sort of what happened.
It was the craziest stuff I've ever experienced. It was exhilarating and horrifying. And it was kind of like when I jumped out of an airplane. I'm glad I experienced it. I never the hell want to jump out of an airplane again. I never want to be picked up by that fella and dragged around anywhere again because, but boy, it was exciting. But you know, it got so crazy with him that it prepped me to meet my husband.
Of course.
Because I'd been running wild, and then here was the wildest, strangest relationship I had ever been in. And by the end of it, I was so worn out. And I was so like, all I want to do now is settle down. I'll give anything to have a normal relationship. And then I ended it with him. And that started my heart opening to something completely different. Mm-hmm. And shortly thereafter, I met Dave. And it was like, oh, I can see you, all of you, and be totally in because I did everything I could do on the other side. And that's why I knew I would never cheat. I would never, I done it all. I had been through it all. I was ready to be in to the next phase of my life. And that's been some interesting, good shit. Loving and learning and opening and healing and nonstop pressure cooker of learning. That's what I say getting married and have a bunch of kids are. It's if you're awake and you're learning the lessons that God's putting in front of you, you don't have a break. Mm-mm. You're like, I have this much to learn. I have this much to go. You know what I mean? You don't get to go unwind. You never get to unwind unless I get to go like on some getaway with you or get on a boat with Renee or go on a girls' weekend to Vegas, like maybe my birthday weekend coming up with Jacqui.
Yeah, that's what I said. We need to go for your birthday. I'll be there this weekend.
Okay, so we got sidetracked because we got sidetracked on my big 3-year exploits of 9.5 weeks. But Jacqui would bring guys over, and then Jacqui, how tall are you, Jack?
5'9".
Jacqui's the people who are watching this can see she's a voluptuous woman. She's got curves. And
I had
sass
less curves back then.
and
I have 2 extra right now.
And she's tall. And she brought home once this little Jewish guy who was probably 5'5".
Maybe.
I was 5'5", so he's about my height. And he's a little fella, and he is darling, just a creative, sweet, darling guy. But I just was looking at him in my family room, and I knew Jacqui was in there getting ready, and she was going to come out in her high heels. And I thought, this is the oddest couple looking, these two bodies.
But not really. He was a good friend that I knew that crushed on me, and I crushed back. And
is that what we call making out now? Crushing?
And though he was petite in size and height, he was very confident. And
I thought you were going to talk about his penis.
No.
He was petite in size, but he was hung like a horse.
I'll be private about that. But he was really confident. That's important to me. It's like, I don't care.
I agree.
I don't care how tall you are. If you've got the confidence
Something
to be able
about
to
him
go out
was
with
sexy.
me.
He knew who he
Absolutely.
was, right? He knew
did.
what his strong points were.
Yeah, absolutely.
So anyway, he's standing there in the family room. No, he and I are sitting on the couch, and I had worked with him when I worked with Jacqui in post-production. I knew him too because I think he worked on one of the shows, Bedroom Buddies or something we worked on together. And he's sitting there, and Jacqui comes out, and she's got on a dress, and it's showing her curves, and she's got on it's kind of the skinny shoe, the high heels. Are those silhouettes? I don't even know what the hell they're called. I wear platforms always. So she comes in sashaying, and I'm like, here she comes. And then all of a sudden, I don't know what invisible piece of lint was on the ground, but Jacqui's legs flew up in the air like slow motion, and I just watched her go bam with her legs up in the air, and I was like, oh my God. And most people would get up to see if they're okay in hell, like Gary did. But I fell on the floor. It was so fantastic. I couldn't get. I was like, I don't know, stuff like that gets me, but it is forever in my
hilarious.
brain. But it brings me such joy to think about it.
Wait. Okay, so there was the Gary incident, and then there was another date I had that brought you joy.
Oh no, what happened?
Fanny Pack Man.
I forgot. Oh my God. Wait, I remember laughing like this. Was it while he was in our house, or was I texting you? What happened?
We didn't have text back then.
What happened?
It was very funny because I had we had gone out, we met these 2 guys. I think you were with me. We met these 2 guys, Jewish guys. And they're like, oh my God, I have the perfect guy for you. Because we were talking about, I like really smart guys. And they said, oh my God, we have a friend. It's a perfect guy for you. He's so smart. You guys will hit it off really well. Got on the phone. We hit it off really well. It was cool. So he was coming to pick me up to take me out on a date back in the day when you could have a first date and have them come to your house and pick you up. You can't do that anymore.
You didn't have a picture of him or anything. You didn't know what he looked like, right? You just talked to him on the phone. Is that right?
And he shows up and you answer the door. Unlike when I answered the door and your guy was naked. He showed up, you answered the door, and he's got like a mullet and a fanny pack. And you lose your shit, but not in front of him.
No, I'm kind that way.
You're like, and he's a little pudgy, and you are like,
oh my God,
you're
I've
like,
never seen anything this magical. You gotta stay right here. I gotta go get Jacqui. I didn't know shit could go this south.
And then you're like, Jacqui will be right out. You come and get me, and then no, you don't. You go walk to your bedroom, and you leave him in the living room, and you call me, Jacqui, your date's here. Can you come in here just for a quick second? So I walk into your bedroom. I'm like, where the hell are you? You're in your closet, underneath the clothes, in a corner, crying your eyes out with laughter.
Oh my God. I just saw him and I thought, oh my,
You're still crying.
It was like, if you could put together like the most horrific combination of everything and put it on my front porch to completely break me, what has life come to? I mean, luckily I don't know who that was but it was, it was shocking. It was shocking. And I thought to myself, how on earth is she going to spend the next even 30 seconds with this guy, like, let alone a whole night?
It was funny because you're like calling me while I'm on the date and then nervous because I'm not replying because I'm like, he took me to dinner and a movie. It was like I had to like not reply. I'm a great first date. But that's how I came up with Next, the dating show for MTV, because of all those string of crazy ass bad dates. And it was always like, oh my God, what if you could just replace this person like right now?
Oh my gosh, so you created a show called Next, and is that kind of like we did really fast dating?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
Jacqui. It was like,
I don't remember.
It was a hit show for MTV. But ultimately, it was sort of like you go on a date, and I would go on these blind dates, and when the internet started, I did a lot of internet dating because I didn't get married till I was 46, remember? So I did a lot of internet dating, and I would see someone that's like, oh God, what if you could just replace them with someone hot? Or, oh God, he just said something really dumb at dinner. What if you could just replace him right now with someone else who's smart? Or, oh God. It was just, and that's kind of how I came up. And I'm like, oh God, that's a great show idea.
I love that. And I remember back when I used to drink a lot and do cocaine, and then I would have really great show ideas and try to pitch them to you at 4 a.m. after I'd been snorting cocaine for like 8 hours. Like, Jacqui, I got a great idea. You're like, all right, well, why don't you tell me about it in the morning? I was like, no, I got to talk about it right now. It's a really great one. Back in the day when I was young, I'm not a kid anymore. Still sometimes I think that I'm a kid again.
I feel like I'm still a kid though.
Well, I do too. It's crazy watching my skin start to shrivel and stuff and going, wow, my earth suit is showing me I'm halfway through. It's starting to turn south on me. But inside my heart and head feel like I'm 28-ish to 33. Weird.
Yeah.
There were a couple of guys, right before when I ended it with naked 9.5 week guy and was open to dating, I thought, wow, I need to start dating, exercising the dating muscle, stop making out drunk with people and actually speak to them without getting drunk or making out. So this was a whole new phenomenon for me. And so I said, I'm going to say yes to every single person that asked me out just to practice what it feels like to date someone so I could get ready for this man I'm going to meet one day. And I remember I dated one guy and he came to the door and his breath was so horrific saying hi to me at the door, I almost started crying. And I said, no, Leigh, you committed to this. You're dating him, breath or not. And we get in the car. It's not even cold out. He cranks the heat and rolls up the windows. And it was just like swirling around like green smoke. And I was dry heaving. And then we ate dinner and he was talking. I couldn't even hear what he was saying. I was like, how in the hell with a glass of red wine can that stank come through across the table at me while I'm trying to make my spaghetti? And I wanted to take the fork and stab myself in the eye. And I was like, forget it, whatever. Cut it short, went home. Next guy I date was so super cute. His name was Jack, but he liked to run far. I don't know if he did cross country or what he did, but he liked to run a lot. But his fingers were kind of like upside down pine cones. And I just remember no matter what, I was like, how's he going to open the door for me with his fingers? Like, does he have no muscles in his fingers? I could just fixate it on his upside down pine cones. And then anywhere we'd go, he'd want to split a plate. And I was just so pissed off. I want to eat a big ass burrito. He's like, want to split one? I was like, how can I make out with you or touch your private parts? If you're splitting a freaking burrito, just box your shit up and take it home. Don't make me eat. So then the next one I had was a cute guy that was an editor at my work, a client. And he had a nice face and we went for a nice dinner and things seemed to be okay. And we went out back and we were looking up. We were living together. I don't know if I was with you or Stuart at that time, but we were looking up at the moon and it was pretty. And I thought, oh, he's going to move in for a kiss. I can just peck him and then call it a day. It was a successful date. And then he went to put his arms around me and I went to put mine too. And my hand accidentally got caught under his shirt was untucked and it went up his back. And it was just fur. Like I pushed my fingernails in it. It was like a werewolf, like to try and touch his skin. I couldn't find his skin. And then I knew he felt me digging in it. And then I kind of pulled my hand out and I just gave him a peck and I said, well, God, it was a great date. And I knew, I was trying not to do it too quick that he knew it was about the fur. But that's literally when I went in and dropped to my knees saying, God, I need some help here. I've been trying on my own. It's not working. I'm really ready to meet my man. Here are the specifics of what I want. thank you. And I forgot about it. And then I met Dave 2 weeks later. But I love how I had to go through that too sexy of a relationship to get me ready for that. And then these guys who weren't quite it to see him. You know, and I loved how that panned out. But yeah, marriage is an interesting boat.
It sure is. And mine is over.
You got in and out quick.
Got in and out. It's all good. You know, I'm very open for the next person who shows up that way, but I'm not slowing down my life for it. I mean, it's like, I'm 57. I do anything I want. I go
Jacqui,
wherever I want.
You have created...
I spend money on whatever I want.
She has a nice car and a nice house and buys what she wants, and where you came from and who you become. It's so beautiful to witness and to be a part of.
I'm still becoming.
Well, okay, Michelle Obama.
That's
By
right.
the way, I wrote a blog called Becoming Leigh before she had her book. I don't know why I feel it important to say that and take something away from her because she's a president's wife and has great arms. I don't know why. She's freaking amazing. And I had Jill on the other day who works with her.
Who is also amazing.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's what I said to Jill. It's so neat. You have risen with me. So when I started Low Level Energy, most of the people who I was connected with back then kind of naturally felt because they didn't match where I was going or who I'm becoming. And you have been rising with me. And I attracted Jill at this energy level. This one wouldn't have gotten to be friends with Jill. So I love that you have risen with me and these amazing, strong, powerful women. And I also talked with Jill about my 50th birthday. And how all this thing I created, no one showed up. And then all of a sudden I was like, who do you have for me, God? Who do you want to be there? And
I was there.
And Jacqui was there. And Jill was there. And Lynn was there. And Renee was there. And it was just like the most beautiful, angelic, affirming of who I am and who I'd become that night at my birthday when I looked around at you guys and started crying like, you guys are my angels. And I'm so just in gratitude for you because you are the real deal. You are so powerful. You are self-made, even if, or more than, or all of the things anyone could say about their childhood. It doesn't matter. That catapulted you and you used it to take care of yourself and provide for yourself and to be loving with yourself and other people. And I just really am impressed with you, Jacqui Pitman.
Well, and I appreciate that. I still make a ton of mistakes. But they're okay because for me, they're not mistakes. They're just...
Hell no!
They're just experiences.
We're only here to make mistakes.
Yeah, it's like...
we're here to be human, which means a little off-center and a little fucked up. But moving forward. And I think that too, with marriage, and I think you experienced it. And I said, like, the only time I would ever, or I'm not an advocate of divorce, but I am an advocate for divorce. But I feel like when you have a partner who's walking with you, even if they're behind you, but they're moving forward with you, or you're hand in hand, you're a couple, you're together. But the minute someone sits down and you're trying to pull them up, it's like you're wearing yourself out trying to pull them up, and you just go, we had a nice run. Whether it was 3 years, 15 years, 20 years, whatever it was, like, oh, wow, we got some stuff from each other. We served each other. Are we equally partnered still? Are we walking forward together, or has it run its course? And I think that's been something really cool for me. I grew up with all of these thoughts that my dad, and I liked my dad a lot. But, he had his mind from Oklahoma and his upbringing too. And some of the thoughts that he put in my head that I met you with some of them, I had to experience life myself, my heart myself, to let him go, or to, you know what I'm saying? Like abortion or comments about black people. And I remember he would operate on people and they wouldn't pay their bill, and he would say black people were lazy. And I would just hear that. And then that would be in my file cabinet. And then in college, I fell in love with Joe Wright, who played basketball at K-State. And
you're like, ooh, he's a black person.
He was not only black, but I went to his parents' house once a month in Carthage, Missouri, and they were lovely. And they were welcoming, and we hung out, and I loved them deeply. And I was like, they're not freaking lazy. They're living their life and taking care of their babies, and they're connected, and they're, I just was like, oh, that was just my dad's comment. That's not real. And it's like, and I remember him talking about homosexuals, that they chose it and all this kind of stuff. And I moved to Los Angeles, and I had a guy named Steven in my car, and we were partying back then, before we were driving. Back then you could drink and drive and not get in too much trouble, but he and I had been out, and we were driving home, and I said, "God, Steven, I love you so much. I can't believe you chose to be gay." And he literally pulled the car over.
And put you out.
And he just looked at my eyes, and his eyes filled with tears, and he just said, "Do you think I would choose something where I would get beaten up every day? Wow. Do you think I would choose something where my father would stop talking to me? Do you think I would choose something where I can't be free?" And I was like, "Oh, no, I don't." And in that moment, that thought that was planted in my file cabinet was gone. And I felt,
which also, Leigh, goes back to the day when I found out you were Republican. It was sort of like into who you are now. And trust me, I married a Republican. My black husband was a Republican.
Right.
So it's like, it's not even about the title of being a Republican. It's about who you are and where your heart is.
Yes.
And evolving in life.
Yes.
You evolved with your friendships that you developed, that moment with him was a life-altering moment for you.
Yes.
And it probably put you in a space of understanding a little bit
way more. No,
yeah.
So much more. Everything that's happened, that's kind of all of these markers I had, like this balloon bouquet that I came, into adulthood with, every single thing that popped the balloon or that I released, I had complete understanding and compassion,
right.
Which was so interesting, because then I can never be a part of the other side again.
Right.
And the last one was there were a few more, but the last one was abortion. Well, not the last one, but the second to last, because I have a different one going on right now that's a new freeing thought. It's like these thoughts that we hold on to bind us. Mm-hmm. And sometimes people kill over the thought. And what I'm doing is letting the thought go and seeing what I can fill it in with, which is compassion and understanding. And one was abortion, when, although I would say people have a right to it, who am I to tell my belief on anyone? Mm-hmm. I had this tiny little hidden judgment still, not hidden, it was still in there, from my dad saying it was murder. Because remember, my dad was a real big deal to me. So I really listened to him when I was young. And then as I grow up, I'm like, oh, he didn't really know what he was talking about there. But with abortion, I supported people. I didn't judge them, all that kind of stuff. But I did have a little judgment left in it. And then Eve came along, and they said, everything's wrong with her. And she literally had 8 markers for neurological disorder, but 2 markers you're concerned, but they said head to toe, and her brain stopped growing, and she was, really a mess. And the doctor said, and this was a specialist who wrote medical journals, said the kindest thing you can do, the most generous, loving thing you could do, is to terminate the pregnancy, because she's going to suffer so bad, and you can't even take care of her because her brain has stopped growing. So you're literally going to be cutting her open, moving her body, and keeping her alive for what's the purpose? You're not going to be able to take care of your other 4 kids. It's going to probably break your relationship, and you'll have no money, because the money you're going to have to spend to move her legs so they don't atrophy until she's 52 in a wheelchair. And I was like, I'm only having this kid because I had frozen embryos left, and I couldn't get rid of a frozen embryo. Now you're telling me the most generous thing I could do to another human being is, and I asked my minister, called him, what should I do? And he said, God's going to welcome her now or 52 years out of a wheelchair, and God knows your heart. And then my nanny at the time was married to Jesus. And I said, Lolly, they want me to terminate. She says, oh, let her go to God. Like, why wouldn't you? And all of a sudden, it became a viable option for my situation. And it ended up not happening. And Eve ended up to have a miraculous turnaround. But having that option was huge for me. Having a decision, having breathing space, and not even knowing that I would ever consider it. In that moment, when I considered it, and when we discussed it, and it was an option, and whatever happened, whatever direction we went, I released all judgment on it. Oh, who am I to judge anyone for anything? I don't know what the hell their deal is, and whatever they're doing is their path.
And what's really funny on that? The complete flip side of your experience with Eve was my different experience of Eve. Because when you were going through it, I'm very pro-choice. I mean, I'm liberal, and I'm very pro-choice. And I'm just, look, the notion of abortion for me is horrific, and having to make those decisions are horrific. But everyone's life is different. And who am I to say your life is better than my life or my decision or my choice? It's your choice.
Yeah.
But having lived some of your experience with Eve, changed my view of when a baby is a baby. Because if you had aborted Eve, we wouldn't be so blessed with Eve at what, 7? How old is she?
She just turned 8.
8. So it's like we would know Eve.
And she's a freaking force.
Who is a force? It's like we wouldn't know Eve if you had aborted. And for me, it's like the feeling of, wow, God came and did what he needed to do to make sure that didn't happen was huge for me. And, you know, am I pro-life now? I still believe in pro-choice. But I also believe that when you choose, you are choosing to end a life.
Wow, interesting, Jack. That's interesting. Isn't that interesting? We both got something out of Eve.
Yeah, we both got something out of Eve.
You know, from my spiritual context, the thing that I think Eve did was she got so sick to crush one of my final judgments I was holding. That's why that happened spiritually. That Eve got so sick so I could release the judgment I was holding against anyone. She opened me to compassion for everyone, not just for the people I think are doing what I think they should do, but for everyone.
Absolutely. And
then when I got her frickin' message, she got to catch up and grow up and get healthy and born healthy. Like that's literally, and the doctor said it was miraculous, that she'd never seen anything like it. But I feel like, you know, my son Charlie had struggles, and it took me a long ass time to get his message, to take care of myself, to give him his space, to let him be the man he's supposed to be with his experiences without me trying to do everything. When I finally had to send him away to boarding school for that, right? And it crushed me, quote unquote, but it opened me and opened my eyes. And as soon as I got the lessons Charlie came to teach, he got to drop that role and start becoming a different human being. Literally, I was like, who are you? This big, tall, handsome guy pursuing acting when I thought you were this needy guy who needed me to take care. You know what I mean? I feel like as I'm getting my lessons, it's freeing the people, the lesson teachers, to take on a new role. It's kind of a neat perspective for me.
You know, I also think it's something that happens in all aspects of our lives. I believe it was the same for me, even when it came down to my husband and I deciding to get divorced. I never believed in divorce. I waited so long to get married. It's like, I am not getting divorced.
Right.
And when it came time for us to make that decision, and I actually sat down and had a real clear conversation with him, it dawned on me, we come into this life alone and we go out alone.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, when we go out alone, we have to feel that we lived the best life we could.
Yeah.
For ourselves.
For ourselves.
And so many of us have a tendency, there are so many people who remain in marriage for the sake of the kids, so they think it's for the sake of the kids.
And the kids feel it and fucks them up.
Totally.
I'm like, don't ever stay together for the kids.
Yeah. Or just because they're embarrassed or because they think that's what they are supposed to do. Yeah. I'm from New Jersey, and in New Jersey, everyone has like 5 to 10 kids. That's normal.
Yeah.
And everyone stays in the marriage at whatever cost. And even if that cost is the losing of your own personal soul.
Yeah.
And some people are married and half a shell of a human being that they used to be prior to.
Yeah, and I think what you're saying, and what I'm a huge believer is, in the end, we are here for our soul's journey.
Yes.
We are here to be fulfilled.
Yes.
We are here to be loved. We are here to be happy. And I think when we forget that, when we put other people or forces outside of ourselves, we're setting ourselves up for misery. And the only thing I think different than what you just said about we come in alone, we leave alone, we come in directly connected to God. We have God inside of us. We can't shake that even if we try.
Yeah.
We have a piece of God where a chip off the old God block. So we're so deeply connected, not only to each other, but to where we came from. And that's where we're going back. So I do believe we are never alone, but we do come bald with no hair and
Physically.
teeth. And if we're lucky, we leave bald with no hair and teeth and diapers, just like we came in.
Right.
But we go back to the ultimate greatness
Right.
after experiencing what it is to be human.
Right. Yeah.
And I am so honored, and I want to cry because I love you with all my heart. So honored to touch my hand that I get to be human with you, and that my time on this planet is walking with you. I love you.
I love you too.
Thank you for coming on today.
You're welcome. I'm not going to cry because of my sinuses.